On day 6 of the World Cup, Zimbabwe beat the UAE in a pretty close game in the picturesque setting of Nelson in New Zealand. I think it's working out quite well that they're holding the big games in the big stadiums, generally in Australia, and the smaller games in the small intimate cricket grounds, generally in New Zealand. Different atmospheres in both sorts of grounds, but I think they're both working out rather nicely. This isn't a match report as such, it's just me highlighting 2 points that I took away from the game. One, if you saw the match, you'll have seen that Shaun Williams for Zimbabwe took a fine catch at point. Now on the coverage, the first replay they showed was from pretty much that exact angle. And I thought, wow, that's a great catch. It'll be interesting to see it from the opposite angle, i.e. from a camera that is around about square leg, and so that you can see the catch from a head-on position. But it never happened. And it suddenly occurred to me the reason was simply they don't have enough cameras. Now, normally when Channel 9 broadcast cricket these days, they have dozens of cameras. But the rights to this broadcast for the World Cup, even though it's being held in Australia and New Zealand, has been won by ESPN Star Sports, emanating out of India. And obviously, they haven't taken it as seriously as Channel 9 take their broadcasting commitments. I sent a tweet to Brad McNamara, who's in charge of Channel 9's cricket production, asking him how many cameras he thought that Star Sports have. No idea. I suppose it varies from venue to venue. Can guarantee it is vastly less than 9 coverage. This is rather disappointing in my opinion. Now, I know that there was a bidding process and presumably Channel 9 could have got the rights if they wanted to bid enough. But it just seems that in Australia and New Zealand, we should be having our own broadcasters producing the World Cup. When it goes to India, their television networks should do it. Particularly given that Channel 9 has for so many years led the way in not just cricket broadcasting, but sports broadcasting. My other point is just how much the Cricket World Cup has vanished from view if you're trying to get an idea about it from the mainstream Australian media. For example, if you'd purchased the tabloid Sydney's Daily Telegraph today to get a match report on the Zimbabwe UAE game, good luck. Here is their sports coverage. Cricket's on the back page, fair enough, but it's only featuring the Australian team. And the other story on the back page is dog racing. Then there are 2 more pages of dog racing. Then 4 pages of rugby league. And now we go and have another page of cricket. But again, it's a Michael Clark article, from an Australian perspective only. 2 pages of soccer follow, 2 pages of sports betting, then there's detailed racing results and sports scores, and finally, a page and a half of rugby union. And that's it. At first, I thought they hadn't even mentioned the Zimbabwe-UAE game. But they had. Look more closely. If you go back to the page where Michael Clark wrote his article, here it is. The entirety of their coverage. Even back over on the detailed scores page, it didn't get a run, although the Sheffield Shield did. Now, I wasn't expecting 8 pages of coverage, but at least a match report would have been nice. And surely the ICC and Cricket Australia must have known that the Australian mainstream media, which is only, fair enough, interested in selling papers and getting people to watch TV shows, wasn't going to focus on these matches. And given that Australia had a 1-week gap between its first and second match in the World Cup, it was almost inevitable that the Cricket World Cup would suddenly become invisible. Why not pay for a bit of coverage? It's been done many times before. Pay a modicum of money to the Daily Telegraph for them to have a 2-page splash on each game of the World Cup, keep the momentum going and keep people's interest up. But anyway, that was day 6 of the Cricket World Cup.